Hi, this is Julian for Production Expert. This is the second of a series of videos that I'm making demonstrating concept from Krotos synthesizer plugin, which I've made this track using nothing but concept, and I've been going through walking you through how those sounds are made and demonstrating how to use concept using it as an example. The sound I'm concentrating on here is this one. It is called CS80 Pad. And while it doesn't sound like a CS80, which is a big, very, very rare synthesizer from the 70s, its use of modulation kind of was inspired by CS80s, particularly that kind of sound. So, to demonstrate what's going on here, first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off a load of stuff so we can see how we built it. So I'll just go through in here. And what we've got is in each of these two oscillators, this is the bit where the raw sound comes from, the bit that we're using to build the sound from. It's rich, it's full of harmonics, and what we do is we take stuff away. That's why this is called subtractive synthesis, using things like filters. And here, what I'll do is, here's the pad using just a single oscillator, sawtooth wave, very rich, buzzy sound, just modulated by this envelope, this amplitude envelope. So the sound starts with a bit of a spit, and then it's got quite a long release, so when you let go of the keys, it takes a while to die away. Quite a dull sound. However, we can make things much more interesting. First off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the second oscillator. Now, these two oscillators are, although it says 0 and 0, actually they are very slightly detuned against each other. That one's detuned down a little bit, that one's detuned up, just a little bit. And when we play them both together, what's going to happen is they're going to kind of like wash against each other and give a richer sound. Sounds like this. More interesting already. Now, actually what I've done is I've pitched one of those up by an octave as well. So it now sounds like this. Okay, good so far. Also, what I've done is I've brought in some filtering. Now, the filter is modulated. And what we've got is we've got a cutoff filter. And if we see the blue here, we've got an envelope which is going to open and then close the filter from this kind of 11 o'clock-ish position up to about 3 o'clock. So it's going to open. It's got a little bit of resonance, which makes that much easier to hear. And it sounds like this. Nice simple example with this low-pass filter, and you can even see how that filter's moving in response to that modulation. Now we can make that more pronounced by either bringing it up here or by changing it here. If we wanted to, we could even invert it. Okay, great, so far. Next, what we've got is we've got some effects. Okay, I'll put some delay and some reverb on to make things sound spacious and lush and nice. And what's more, with that movement that we've now introduced, we'll hear that kind of smeared in time and echo and things. And that's helping a lot already. However, the other thing that was interesting was the use of this ring modulator. Now, why it's called a ring modulator isn't that interesting. The only thing, if you haven't heard of one before, that you might be aware of is if you've ever seen Doctor Who, it's what they use to make the sound of the Daleks. But yeah, what it does is it introduces some frequencies that don't necessarily belong in the sound as produced by the oscillator. And if you turn it up a lot, it can start to sound very, very strange and very kind of unmusical, actually, if it's taken too far. I've used fairly moderate settings here, but we see red here, so this is what's modulating it. And this envelope is modulating and altering the level of this frequency control. And what that's doing is it's introducing, well, if we just play it and actually see what's going on, I'll turn it on. Now, the interesting thing here is that the modulation's inverted. So it starts at the top, and then as this modulation signal rises, it's actually modulating this parameter downwards. That's happening because there's the center point, and the modulation depth is inverted in the way that I showed you just a minute ago. If it went the other way, things would sound a lot wilder, actually. And there you get the characteristic ring modulation kind of effect, which is kind of cool and spacey, but it's really not what I'm looking for. So there we go. So this way, what it's doing is it's starting moderately ring modulated, and then it's falling in level, and it's slowing everything down, so you get the kind of effect as the effect slows. Cool. And back into context. Which is a bit more interesting than without the ring modulation, which just sounded like this. Nice enough pad, but lacking something. Compared to. So that is our CS80 pad. Next, drums. We're going to concentrate on the kick to begin with. It's a kick-like sound. If you want something that sounds exactly like an acoustic kick drum, then use a sample. But I like synthesized drums. They've got a charm. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll switch off all these effects and I'll disable this modulation. And what we end up with is it's just a single sine wave, because the blend in this oscillator's over all the way to the right, which means we're only hearing this side. If I pull it over the other way, we'll hear that sawtooth that's on the other side of this. But here we go, just got that. And the only modulation that's happening is this amplitude envelope. So it starts all of a sudden, it's got a long decay, sustain of nothing. So if you hold the key down for a long time, you'll hear nothing once it's fallen away through that decay phase. Great. If I were to lengthen that attack time, then the attack of the drum would get softer. So like this. And it's coming in with a wah, wah, which is no use at all. If it goes all the way up, we'll get a click, because it will start so fast it'll actually go. But we were around about 0.8, something like that, around about here. Not too clicky. The decay controls how long it takes for the sound to die away. So shorter, too short, too long, right about there was about right. Slightly longer. Great. So what else have we got? Well, the main thing is drums don't just have a single pitch. Usually they involve a certain amount of drop. And if you get a particular characteristic pitch drop, it can sound very drum-like. And people do tune acoustic drums to do that. So what we'll do is we'll modulate the pitch of this oscillator using this envelope. So what we've got is if I switch it on, and it's got a boo kind of sound. We could probably hear it more clearly if I pull in this sawtooth. And it's got a little woo. If I lengthen the decay, it's not falling as far. But something like that is good. And what's going on is we've got a modulation it's starting high and it's detuning down. So we're getting a characteristic pitch drop. Now it sounds silly like that. What we'll do is we'll pull it back to get the sine wave. And that's considerably more drum-like than without. And then to bring a little bit more meat into it, what we'll do is we've got a certain amount of cut-off filtering in here, actually, with a high resonance, just to put a little bit of a peak in the bottom. It's not changing the sound hugely. But it's a bit of helpful processing. And then a little bit of saturation, just to put some fur on the sound, a little bit of distortion. and some compression. And a little bit of reverb. Now, this is a very short reverb. This is convolution reverb, which we won't worry about exactly what that means, but you can use real spaces. And this is a corridor. It's a very small space. But just a tiny bit of it is helping quite a lot. And there we go. We have our kick drum sound.